today's episode is titled Know When Enough is Enough. We're en route to our fancy cylinder tank today, weekly service. The homeowner has asked us to get him some more of the green chromis damsels, and he really likes the flame hawkfish, as well as really likes the longhorn cowfishes. Now his cylinder tank is doing awesome. So well, I don't even want to talk about how well it's doing for fear of jinxing myself, but it's doing awesome. I usually spend about 5 minutes every time I come there, just standing there in total amazement of how beautiful this tank is and what a good job I've done. But, again, the homeowner has asked us to buy more fish. So I have to kind of question myself as to, does his tank, is it really doing that well that it's a big risk to add more fish? Or is there room for more fish in the tank? Biologically speaking, the tank can certainly support more. Compatibility-wise, we've got a handful of really nice butterfly fish in there. We've got triggerfish in there, hawkfish, a lot of clownfish in the tank, and two very attractive angelfish. The fish that I'm taking today are more of what we already have. Chromis, the green chromis damsels, as well as the flame hawkfish. We are sneaking in a little long-nose hawkfish and a small longhorn cow. I believe that the tank certainly can support more fish. I believe in my ability to quarantine and pre-treat the fish so that it minimizes, not eliminates, but minimizes any potential introduction of parasites or disease into the tank. Now the real reality is, regardless of how good you are, those fish are always, just like people, going to introduce something, carry something with them. I don't believe that there are totally ick-free fish. I believe that ick exists on all fish. It's just if the fish is able to deal with it, whether it be psychologically or physically, he's not going to become stressed. And stress, as we all know, is the biggest killer of fish. So I do not believe that the tank is at its capacity. I do believe in my ability to quarantine or pre-treat the fish. The real question is, do I want to risk that? And the first part of that answer is, it's the customer who asked for them, so he's already made a decision that he's willing to risk that. Now, does he really know that there's a great risk? Does he believe or assume that I'm going to bring him disease or parasite-free fish? He probably assumes that. But that's not a realistic situation. What I have done is pre-treated the fish. I've used 2 different types of medication. And today, after I netted out the 28 green chromis damsels, I went through and visually inspected them again once they were in the bucket, and I pulled out 4 of them. We all know that the green chromis are not necessarily the hardiest fish in the world, and they have their own little issue, and that issue seems to be what I'm going to simply call the red sore disease. Meaning they get some sort of a parasite or wound on them, and then that gets a bacterial type infection, and that little red sore develops, and then it just overwhelms the fish at some point. But I've treated them with 2 different medications. I've culled out what I don't consider to be the hardiest ones. Again, I feel real confident in my ability to bring him what I would consider quality fish. But having said that, there's still the risk of introducing something into the tank. And do I want to be responsible for the one to have brought that into the tank? Well, the reality is I am the one who's going to be bringing it into the tank. No one else is. And so, again, based on the fish, based on my ability, and based on the customer's request, I feel okay about adding these fish to the tank today. But you really want to think about that, because there have been times in the past where, oh Jim, just one more fish, the crowning touch. And son of a gun, if that crowning touch didn't bring something along with him, and we ended up losing half the tank. So there is a risk, and there is a reality there. So again, I've already made the decision that I'm comfortable with the fish, I'm comfortable with the tank, and I'm going to go ahead and introduce those new fish into the tank. So why don't you come along with us and watch how we service the tank today, as well as introduce those fish.
And here's my baby. She's about 2 years old now, and she's doing extremely well. We've decided to add some additional fish, 24 blue-green chromis damsels, into the tank, along with a pair of flame hawkfish and a long-nose hawk. You can see here how well and large the fish have grown in the tank over the last 2 years. Look at that longhorn cowfish. Can you believe how big she's gotten? And that imperator angel is at least an inch thick through the belly now.
You can see here I've just taken simple airline tubing, looped it through a piece of PVC pipe just to create some weight at the top end, and then I hook it up in the top of the tank there and just create a siphon straight down into the bucket.
Of all the things involved in providing livestock to an aquarium service customer, especially one with this prominent and fancy an aquarium, attentive selection, appropriate medication, allowance for the fish to become comfortable or familiar with a tank environment, it's this step, the acclimation or final acclimation into the aquarium, which is one of the most important. We need to make sure that variances between water quality, specifically temperature, pH, and salinity, are equalized or allowed the opportunity to equalize to those changes. So we're going to do an acclimation that'll consist of the length of the entire aquarium service, which will be about 2 hours. And during this time, we're going to drip some water from the tank into those 5-gallon buckets that we've brought the fish in. And part of today's service is to address the pleated cartridge and activated carbon in the canister filter. This is an important part of the filter system as it helps remove particles as well as the colors and odors from the aquarium.
So as I mentioned, that canister filter is a very important part of the filter system, and you need to make sure that it's completely seated and sealed. Otherwise, if there was any leakage in there, it potentially could drain the entire tank. And this is a pretty fancy house to be having water running across the floor. Come on back for part 2 as we deal with the protein skimmer, clean the sculpture on the inside of the tank, and add the fish to the system.